Today is Tuesday, August 13th. The Mets were swept out of Seattle on a tough road trip. Now we come home with many questions that need answers.
Shea Station, Jerry and Jolly. Shea Station, Jerry and Jolly. Riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your fans. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shea Station.
Welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. Apologies for being a day late. I was sick yesterday, I being Jolly Olive, so I apologize. I pushed us back. I'm with Jerry Blevins, who's hailing from some hotel room in Soho, New York, getting ready for pre and post on SNY. And boy, there is a lot to talk about from a 10-game road trip where the Mets grabbed only 4 wins. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back in the city doing pre and post game, meeting up with some of my former teammates and current friends and radio hosts. The A's are in town. So that means, my other love, my other team. Excuse me while I pick up my trash and put it in the trash can. So it feels bad in Mets baseball land, right?
Yeah.
It kind of feels bad. It's not that bad. It can be that bad. They gotta start hitting, man.
Yeah.
They gotta start hitting. So go. Yeah. I mean, I think the overall feeling is kind of somber and down. And who are we? What are we gonna do? It can turn right back around, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lineup that has proven that they're talented, but they went to Seattle. I mean, Seattle is the big thing we're going to talk about here. It was a long road trip. There were series wins and series losses in there, but they got outscored 22-1 in Seattle. I mean, it was the worst that they have looked since May, when they weren't a good team yet, before Grimace, before OMG, before all the magic. That was the last time they got swept. It was the Dodgers series where Jorge Lopez tossed his glove into the stands. The Mets made all the wrong headlines, so it's been a while since that moment. It's been a while since we felt this way about the team, which I think is a good thing. That means they've played good ball for 2 months, but just about everything that could have gone wrong in the series did. You had errors that opened the floodgates from defenders you rely on. The starting pitching didn't go deep in games. The bullpen got absolutely lit up when they entered games, and the Mets' heart and soul, which is their lineup, which has been cohesive and consistent and even flow, just completely fell apart. And if not for Jeff McNeil's solo shot on Sunday, I mean, this was, we're one pitch away from all the wrong history in Mets land. So luckily we get out with just, an embarrassing sweep and not a history-making sweep. But yeah, we were Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in Seattle, man. Sleepless, just absolutely sleepless.
First of all, nice little reference right there. I appreciate that. You're a young man to know those.
Hit your layups.
Yeah, man. Thank goodness McNeil came through with the solo shot. A 3-game series of being shut out. That would have been incredible. Yeah. It was a weird road trip. We knew it was. West Coast road trips are hard. No excuses. They had that St. Louis game. Losing the series in Colorado is inexcusable. Getting swept in Seattle, you don't want that to happen, but it happens. But the series in Colorado, followed by 1 run in 3 games, that's where it felt horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, they had that one. They had the final game in Colorado where they put up, I think, 9 runs, which was okay, we're back, we're fine. This is what we should be doing. They lost the series to the Angels. They did take 2 out of 3 from Colorado, but they lost the first game. And then that one game in the middle against the Cardinals was okay, this is huge for the road trip, because now positive record going into Seattle. We just need to take 1 game, and then it's a 5-5 split. You come home, wipe your hands clean of, all that travel, and just get ready to have a nice homestand. Instead, 5-5 turns to 4-6 and turns into a game back of the wild card instead of a tie in the wild card. So it's all these little things that kind of add up. And if you're a Mets fan that's feeling the doom and gloom, I get it. It's justified. It's been a while since the team's lost 3 games in a row, let alone get swept. But again, the Mets are as in it as basically any other team in the National League because it's still
absolutely
a very crowded wild card picture. But I do think that we need to start accepting the reality that the Padres and the Diamondbacks are sewing up those spots because these teams are not losing ever. They're on unbelievable magic heaters where they're beating. I mean, the Diamondbacks just swept the Phillies, the presumptive best team in the National League. The Padres have been winning for 2 months straight. It's looking like it's going to be a battle for this last spot, which I still think the Mets are fully capable of getting towards. It's just now they're 5 games back of those other 2 top spots. So it's going to get dicey. These are games you're going to have to start winning pretty consistently.
So, the Diamondbacks and look, there's a lot of baseball left. The Padres and Diamondbacks feel hot, but so did the Mets. They climbed out of the gutter, though. They're not clear. They look like they're clear, but that's good. How, what I mean? They do look good. And their rosters, the Padres, to me, are the most complete team on that wild card list. I think they're going to give the Dodgers a little run for their money. The Diamondbacks are returning NL champs. So they're pretty legit. They're getting healthy. They're getting contributions from guys, but they're 4 games up.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not that far.
It's all about perspective.
It really is. And there's 6 weeks left of baseball?
Yeah.
Is that right?
What's
7 weeks?
I want to find the exact number. I'm going to do some quick jolly math.
Yeah, do some math because I'm not going to do it.
162 minus. Wait, hang on. Oh, come on, my calculator. My calculator. What's going on here? 44 games left. I finally figured it out, guys.
44 games left.
I mean, okay.
To make up 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly doable. I've seen the Mets blow larger leads in far less of time. That is a good point to make. And the Mets, I mean, if we're doing schedule watch, which I think we're in mid-August, I think that's perfectly acceptable because every game counts now, especially with 7 teams competing for 3 spots. You have an Oakland, Miami, Baltimore homestand coming up. Now, the common Mets fan sees the beatable teams and get a little bit scared because, in Mets land, things are reversed. You play up to competition, play down to competition. After this homestand is that 7-game road trip against the Padres and the Diamondbacks, which we alluded to last episode. So this is basically the make or break stretch of the season. I know September is a whole nother month of games after this, but this is a prime opportunity to gain ground and get yourself back into a position where you can feel comfortable and, feel the momentum gearing back forward. But I think it's safe to say that, the magic of June and July, the grimace, the OMG, the whirlwind of rallying cries, that I think has come and gone, and I will cherish it for what it was. Now it's time to find out who you are. Okay, no more BS, no more funny stuff. Are you a playoff team? Are you a playoff caliber lineup? Can you hit playoff caliber pitching? Because this past weekend you couldn't. You failed in a national spotlight. The Mets are going to get tested and tested again, especially with that 10-game stretch of Orioles, Padres, and Diamondbacks. I'm really hoping they can take a few games here to get recalibrated and get back to where they were. Because I still believe in this lineup, even though this weekend was an absolutely tough watch.
You're right. With everything you said, you've got, so you talked about, you have Oakland and Miami, and then Baltimore on this homestand. We've been playing down to our competition and up to our competition. This is where leadership steps up, and you got to lay the law down, whether that comes from players, whether that comes from the manager. Can't let them slip away anymore. You have to beat the teams that are worse than you. And Oakland's not the White Sox.
No, they're having a sneaky okay season.
They're 50 and 69, so they're not a pushover, and they're young.
Yeah.
So these guys fight. The White Sox are roll over. Excuse me.
Get your glug in. You're okay. The Whites. I'll say this about the A's, because we talked a lot about our offense. Their offense has been pretty impressive this year between JJ Bleday, Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, who should have. I don't think he was an all-star this year, which makes no sense to me. But they have a formidable top 3 there and a pretty even balanced lineup. The Mets are going to need good pitching. And how about Paul Blackburn is getting the start tonight. His third start with a new team. You're already facing your old team, which is about as far away as you could get from NL East to AL West. I just found that funny.
Yeah, there was a good chance that he never faces his old team.
Yeah.
And he does it quickly, and he's not dodging them. It's not Severino and the Yankees.
No, sir.
It's Blackbird versus the A's. I hope he has a good showing, man. He had a long run there.
Yeah.
He was like their ace for the last 3-4 years. I hope he doesn't try to do too much and stays within himself, because he's looked great. It's 2 straight starts of going 6+ with 1, I think.
12 innings, 2 earned runs so far as a Met. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's been great. He's been what you thought he was going to be, a little bit more, but the guy knows how to pitch. So I'm excited to see him against his old team.
Yeah, I mean, he's impressed in his first 2 starts. One of them came in Colorado, which is not an easy task. That's easily a start that can get away from you. The Mets pitching has been okay for the most part. I think the 12 runs on Sunday definitely skews their numbers in August a little bit. But Blackburn's been okay. It's just the starting pitching has taken a step back. I mean, the biggest name is Luis Severino. Has been getting hit pretty hard recently. Batters are hitting .326 with 3 home runs against Luis Severino in 10 innings in August. So you still have your bright spots. You still have Jose Butto, who's been absolutely impeccable since he moved to the bullpen. We got Reed Garrett back. He struck out the side in his first inning. That was really encouraging. So it's just been a little ebb and flowy on the pitching side, and I'm hoping, with Peterson's great run and Quintana, I think, looking better than his stat line in Seattle, you can get 3 good starts here against the Oakland A's, and hopefully your offense can pick up the other end.
Yeah, I agree. Severino was due for a hiccup in the season. He's been so solid. You're with Blackburn, with Reed Foley coming back, Reed Garrett coming back. I like the way the bullpen is going to, because this is what you need. You get a little lull in your starting rotation, and then the bullpen can pick you up there. It's just like the lineup. You got to pick each other up. They're very capable. You got to stay away from the guys that are hurting you, though. You got to stay away from the hands in the bullpen in tough situations. Stanek trade hasn't worked out. Ottavino's been so up and down, mostly down this year.
Yeah.
You can't pitch them in situations where you need a 0 right now. But you have enough guys to pick you up. So you don't need to go 6 right now. You have guys that can push. So this is going to be a run. Who are they? Who are you?
Yeah.
This next couple, this homestand and then the road trip could define the whole season. Again, 30 games will be a lot left.
Yeah.
But you don't want to let these teams that are hot right now in Arizona and San Diego take off. You got to stay with them. You got to keep pace. You can't let them, go out to a lead. Plus, you got teams right behind you. You got the Braves that you overtook, and they were out of the playoffs, for crying out loud, which was wild. The Cubs are playing pretty well.
I can't believe the Cubs are still in it. I don't know how that happened. They're just suddenly a 500 team again.
Yeah. So it's crazy out there. That third wild card, I still don't love it.
Yeah.
I think that it makes the playoffs boring. But it is what it is. This is what you got to deal with. You're trying for that third spot. It is an exciting chunk of teams that are very capable. Shit, and at this level, the Reds are not out of this.
I know.
You know what I mean? They can get hot. So there's no need to panic, but there is need to put some pressure on yourself to step up and start to perform. You cannot your offense can't go stagnant for longer stretches than this.
I mean, I feel weird scoreboard watching, because you're scoreboard watching for 7 different teams, like rooting for all of them to lose. It's just not going to happen. Like some are going to win.
You can't, because half of them, they're going to play against each other.
Like the Braves and Giants are playing against each other, and I was like, I don't even know who I want to win this. I think I want the Giants to win.
The answer is always the Giants to beat the Braves if you're a Mets fan.
But then if they win, they gain a game on us. I don't know. But let's talk about the offense a little bit, because I do agree.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be impossible for the Mets to make a run at this third wild card if the offense regresses to what it was in May, which was runners in scoring position woes, not hitting the ball out of the yard enough. They've been bad in August. I mean, it's been 10 games and they've been the worst team in the National League offensively. They're last in slugging, they're last in OPS, they're last in runs scored, and they're last in home runs, which I think is the most alarming thing. 7 home runs in 10 games, and this is a team that transformed their identity by becoming a slugging lineup between Vientos' power stroke, Alonso always good for 30-plus home runs, Lindor was doing it, Nimmo was doing it. I want to ask you point blank, what bat is worrying you the most right now with their recent skid, their recent slump? What bat do you need to come alive the most, I guess, for this offense to go back to where they were?
For me, gosh, I mean, it's not one name. They all need to step up because they're just outs. A lot of guys are just easy outs right now. But for me, the answer is 2. There's 2 guys. Yeah. We need Nimmo at the top of the lineup and Vientos in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah.
Vientos, you're gonna go through it. He's struggling, and it carried over a little bit defensively, or defensively carried over offensively. I'm not sure what it was. But Nimmo's carried this team at times this year. I expect him to bounce back, probably coming home. He's going to do it now. But I want Vientos. I want to see more likely from his development. I want to see him bounce back from this little, slump that he's in, because he's had such a stellar season. You're going to go through this coming out of the All-Star break, whatever the case may be. That's what we talked about. I was on the first pre and post games after the All-Star break, and it was, what do we have to do to continue this feeling that we had going in? And it's the lineup has to mash. They have to, because Pete hasn't been a guy to carry the team this year.
Right.
Lindor has tried. He's done his very best, but you need guys. I mean, Iglesias, Terrens, like all these guys were contributing. They all still need to contribute. They don't all have to be going off, but you got to have guys like Nimmo and Vientos produce.
Yeah.
And then the other guys can go 1 for 4 in a big clutch hit, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, I think you picked out 2 really good ones there. I mean, Nimmo's been a bigger story because it's been more than August. It's been basically since the beginning of July. Since July 30, he's hitting 181 with an OPS under 600, and that in your 2-hole is, poison to the lineup essentially, because that's one of the most important spots in terms of run producing and getting on base. For Vientos, it is going to be a little bit of like, okay, this is your toughest stretch in your best season so far. How do you respond to it? He's been hitting well at home this year, so I have high hopes for this upcoming series. I think he had like a sore ankle thing on Sunday.
Hopefully he's in the lineup today.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's the reason he's been kind of, inconsistent.
Very possible.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, not that I hope for injury, but I'm saying, maybe that's a recovery thing with the off day, yada, yada, yada. From my perspective right now, besides Brandon Nimmo, because that is, I think the first and foremost guy there. For me, it's JD Martinez. In June, this was the spark. I always go back to the Miami and San Diego homestand where the Mets kind of turned it on, and JD Martinez was a massive reason for that, between the walk-off home run and then the plethora of extra base hits he had in the San Diego series. That's what got the team going. It was that move to the 3 spot. It lengthened the lineup between Vientos producing and then Lindor at the top. And JD has been gone for almost 2 months now. There's been no slug. It's been a lot of singles. He's had the occasional clutch hit, of course, the grand slam against the Braves, but he's hitting 217 with a 635 OPS since July 5th. That's 125 plate appearances. That's coming up on a fifth or a quarter of your entire season. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, the numbers on the season are still positive for JD Martinez, but when you have your 2 and your 3 hitter, I mean, black holes is a stretch, I think, but they've been not the guys that you expect them to be. You still have Lindor producing the way he was. I mean, in this horrible series for the Mets, Lindor still went 5 for 12 with a couple extra base hits. Like, he's doing his part, but it's not going to matter if these guys can't produce behind him. So I think JD Martinez is a big one. And then I feel bad being tough on Jesse Winker because he's so new. It's still under 30 plate appearances as a Met. but he hasn't been doing much either. I think he's still getting acclimated, and these are your power guys. These are your guys that are supposed to be, big time slugging bats, in the middle of the lineup, picking up everybody else. You can point to Iglesias and Torrens not being as hot, but these aren't the guys you rely on. You rely on your 2 through 5 hitters, the meat of your lineup, and they just haven't been there. So I'm hoping this homestand can be big for at least 2 of those guys that we mentioned, whether it's Nimmo and JD or Vientos and Winker. 2 of those guys need to step up and be the headliners of this series.
Yeah, I agree. They whatever's going on, they just got to win some ball games right now.
Yeah, find a way to win.
Find a way to win. Get through. This is a good stretch. These next 6 games against a team, a lesser than team in Oakland. They're fighters, but they're lesser than you skill wise. And Miami, who traded everybody that they had, and they're not very good. So you can win these ball games and not put on an amazing display. But then Baltimore comes into town, and you're going to have to be at your best. So win some ball games, iron some things out here in the next 6 days, and then get back to it. You'll be fine. I'm not in panic mode. They shouldn't be in panic mode, but you're going to need to stay afloat in the wild card standings. As a player right now, your focus is figuring out what it is that you're doing to get back on track, like JD Martinez. Whatever I expect him fully, because he's done it his whole career, is to figure out what he was doing and make an adjustment. Now that they're at home, now that they had an off day, they can come to the ballpark feeling refreshed and ready to attack. This is a very good team. You don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Because the guys this could easily fall apart, like from our perspective, but as a player, you're just like, look, I don't have to be special. I just have to be who I am. Come in, do your job, and move on, and good things will happen. So I expect them to turn it back on. I don't expect them to go on the run that they did after that meeting, whatever the grimace, right, all that whole thing. I just expect them to be a challenger, and then maybe magical things can happen in the long run, but you got to keep pace. So that's what I'm looking at as a player. You're just trying to win every day. From a media standpoint, if we can take a step back and look at the grander picture, you got to tread water right now and try to keep pace and not get it out of reach. That way, when you start hitting your stride, you have enough, to the finish line to be able to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, good teams don't just have a lightning in a bottle thing that they can activate whenever and, just turn into magic. They beat the teams that they should beat, and, they are accountable when they're underperforming. And I think the Mets have gotten one half of that right. I mean, Nimmo faced the media during his struggles. I really liked what he said about, I'm expected to be this person and I'm not, and I got to figure it out. Mendoza was, he wanted to flush the Seattle series, which I liked as well. Just move on. Like, whatever happened. You can't live back there. So, I mean, it's just on the Mets to beat losing teams. I mean, the Oakland A's, say what you will about them, they're 23-52 against teams above 500 this year. That is a team that you should take 2 out of 3 from, bare minimum. I mean, it's hard to sweep any series, but the Mets need as many wins as they can get. I am terrified of the Miami Marlins. I want that series over and done with. I will take 2 out of 3. I already know they're going to be 3 one-run games where the Marlins play out of their mind for no reason. I'm terrified of that series. But the Mets have proven time and time again that they can hang with good teams. They have really good records against most of the teams in wildcard contention this year. They're 3-0 against the Padres. They have winning records against the Cardinals. What else is here? The Dodgers, they're 3-3. The list goes on and on. Braves are 5-5. These are teams that we can compete with. It's just about, can you clean up everything that's in between those series? Because that's what'll carry you. It's not going to be another rallying cry or anything like that. It's going to be proving that you are an echelon above those teams. And these next 6 games are going to be pretty defining of that, I think.
Yeah. You're a true Mets fan when you're scared of the Marlins.
I'm terrified of the
Understandably,
Marlins. I'm human, man. I've watched every Mets
Yeah.
Marlins game this year. I think it's a miracle that the Mets are 5-5 against the Marlins because the way that they've played against that team, they looked like they're 2-8, 3-7, bare minimum.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So for this A's series, it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah,
You don't let Brett Rooker beat you.
walk them.
It's walk him.
Just walk him.
Give him
I'm not saying he's
Soto
Judge,
Judge treatment.
But look at the lineup
Dude.
around him. Just walk him.
Have you seen his numbers? How did this guy not get traded? He's got a 952 OPS.
They're building something, Jerry. They're building something.
He's 29.
I know. He got bounced around too. Like his career
did.
story is nuts. No one wanted
So
him.
that's what I mean. You're getting a guy in his prime who's gonna age out before he hits free agency. Probably. He's. I
He would have been
wouldn't
the
trade him
best
for-
bat available at the trade deadline, and they didn't
He
trade him.
was by far.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it.
I don't either. But don't let him beat you.
Yeah.
And then, JJ Bleday has looked pretty good, but Shea Langoliers can crush some homers. He's got 21 on the year. You just don't let Langoliers hit a homer and don't pitch to Brett Rooker, and
Yeah.
you should be fine. Then the Marlins, you just got to avoid the Marlin magic.
Which is impossible.
It's not impossible. You can beat them.
I mean, Citi Field might be Marlins Park North. The only thing I will say is that the A's have hit left-handed pitching a lot better than they've hit right-handed pitching. So Peterson and Quintana are going in the series. Just pitch carefully.
Give you five.
Which they're known
Give
for.
you five.
5-5. A little bit on the bullpen. We're getting some reinforcements, like you alluded to before.
love
Dedniel
it.
Nunez is scheduled to throw a bullpen session. That might have already occurred because that news report was on August 10th. So hopefully that went well. Sean Reed Foley's pitching at Syracuse. Starling Marte is playing for Binghamton. So the Mets do have reinforcements on the way in addition to already getting Reed Garrett back. I am really curious about Marte because I feel like we haven't really thought about him in 2 months. And when he was here, when the Mets were getting hot in June, he was a big piece of the lineup. So I'm curious to see where Mendoza slots him in, what the playing time looks like, because that becomes a very crowded outfield now with Tyrone Taylor stepping up and Jesse Winker needing some reps as well. So his return is fairly imminent, and maybe that's a spark plug the Mets could really benefit from in the lineup. But yeah, I think this upcoming series is going to come down to the Mets pitching stepping up and trying to help out an ailing offense by taking down, throwing up some zeros against the team they should.
It might be my bias, but I think the bullpen puts the team on its back during this next 6 games, these next 2, because you want your starter, like you said, these guys hit lefties. Let your starter throw 100 pitches in 5 innings and do well enough, and then let your bullpen shut them down, and your offense do just enough to kind of figure their way through it, and then start going on fire, man.
Yeah.
I still feel good about this team. I do. They got to find something else to push them from OMG, and you know what I mean? It's what's new. Find something organically and just play some baseball, and it'll figure it out. So
Yeah. I'm a little bummed we're not getting a Sean Manaea revenge game in this series because he looked good up until that Seattle start. He had back-to-back amazing outings ever since.
amazing.
I think he said he wanted to look like Chris Sale or something, and then
That was it. He took the Chris Sale approach, and he did look like Chris Sale, but 5 of Chris Sale smushed together.
I just don't understand how they gave up 22 runs in Seattle. I don't understand how that happened. I really do feel like they were pitching well up until that series. The offense I get, there's a lot of talk about hitting in Seattle, whatever, and they were due for a lull. Not that bad, but they were due for it. I don't understand how this pitching got lit up so badly by a team that just hasn't really hit the entire season. But good for Seattle. They're back into it.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, I mean, the offense hasn't been great for a while.
Yeah.
So, that puts more pressure on your pitching staff to be fine. Losing in LA that felt horrible.
That middle game with the Neto, after JD hits another grand slam, the Mets go in front, and then that back-breaking home run from Neto immediately after. And Brazoban, I think, outside of that moment, has looked good as a Met. I think.
Yeah, he's been a good addition. That was a tough moment.
Yeah,
but he's been really good.
But
outside of Jesse Winker,
it's been a good trade deadline. Oh, Ryan Stanek
has.
hasn't been great, but other than that,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I expect Winker to relax, especially if Marte comes back. His role will be, the DJ Stewart role. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just win some ball games. Relax, take the pressure off yourselves. Whatever you did on your off day, it was probably just sleep because West Coast to East Coast.
I hope they slept. They got so boned by the ESPN broadcast.
That's St. Louis. Oh, I know the Sunday night baseball game.
That's both valid. I mean, there were so many ways to lessen the burden of this road trip, and the Mets.
I know how pissed that team was to be on the Sunday night baseball game.
First Sunday night baseball in Seattle in 20 years. And it's, of course, when we're there at the end of a 10-game road trip. Perfect. Unbelievable. And they didn't make excuses. Eric Chavez said we're not.
No, you didn't hear a single thing about it, really. But inside,
excuses.
They were pissed.
Yeah. I mean, JD Martinez has openly said during his time with Boston, he hates Sunday night baseball. It was the biggest thing he didn't like about playing for the Red Sox because they were on it like every week. And, it's still snake biting him. It's unbelievable.
He's a creature of routine.
Yeah.
And being the Sunday night game, like it throws your routine into it. It's a hiccup.
Yeah.
But you deal with it. Now you got to go.
Yeah, and this is the optimism pod, and I do want to highlight things that were good. One thing that we didn't mention, David Peterson got to pitch in front of his hometown crowd for the first time. Got to pitch at Coors Field. That fly ball in the fifth inning scared the shit out of me. Thought it was gone. Thought it was a grand slam. Instead, it's 5 innings, 1 earned run for him. So he has quietly been a productive starter. I don't fully understand it because I've watched a lot of his starts. There's been a lot of traffic on the base paths. But at the end of 12 starts, he has a 3.34 ERA, and I wanted to give him a little bit of praise because that's been, I think, pretty undersung in this Mets rotation that has struggled and I think is really feeling the absence of Kodai Senga.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was like the gut punch that these guys faced. I don't know what their record is since that moment.
You know what? Because that's a good question. That felt like the apex, right? I mean, Senga's
it did.
They just hit 4 home runs in an inning. I wonder what their record is since that. Let me see.
Yeah. So, that felt like a lull, but good for Peterson's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Apart from the Atlanta start where, he went 5 and gave up 4.
Yeah.
He's been excellent. So
yeah, they're 6-9 since that game. And nice. I don't know. I mean, I don't think the vibes were ever higher in the ballpark than that moment against
the lower.
Leaping over the Braves, hitting those home runs, Senga's dealing, and then all of a sudden there's a stupid little injury. That's just a nothing calf injury.
That'll take the wind out of your sails.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then you have this 10-game road trip. But now you got to figure it out. So give them the benefit of the doubt. You got to take 2 or 3 from both of these teams before facing Baltimore. You just got to win series. A sweep would be lovely, but 2 out of 3, just win every series and you'll be fine.
So let me ask you this. We're due to get back Nunez. We're due to get back Reed Foley. We just got back Reed Garrett. Who is getting bounced from your Mets bullpen? Because I think we're probably going to have to clear 2 spots in the near future, probably within the next week, if I had to guess. Who's getting bounced?
Oh, let me take a look at the roster real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Diaz, obviously, or Jose Budo. Yeah. I don't think is in that mix. I think the guys that are vulnerable. I mean, Alex Young, I think got a short stick there because he gave up 1 run as a Met in 10 innings.
Yeah, I liked when they kept Danny Young and sent him out. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think Danny Young, Ottavino is a candidate. Ryan Stanek, who just got here, might be a candidate.
That's for me, it's Stanek and Danny Young probably, but having a lefty
is nice.
It is, and he's struck a bunch of guys out, but let me take a look. I think Budo. I'm just kidding.
I mean, the Ottavino has survived a lot this season. I'm a little surprised he's still here, if I'm being completely honest. And that outing in Seattle was tough, man. I mean, that's a game-ending home run you give up there when you're coming in for mop-up duty.
Dude, that's wild. So Stanek still throws like 100. So they love that, even if it's not producing.
Yeah.
For me, it's a Danny Young, Stanek, Ottavino, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
So
it's a game of
I
options.
mean, that is a good bullpen with Nunez and
That's what
Reed
I'm
Foley
saying.
coming back.
Yes, like that we're 1 week away from this being a strength of the team. Because I mean, say what you will, like we gave up a prospect to get Ryan Stanek. We gave up cash to get Phil Maton, and he's been awesome for the Mets. I mean, I think there's going to be no heartstrings tugged if Stearns has to cut ties with someone he just acquired to make this a strength of the team again. It's just I feel really worried if there's no lefty option in this bullpen, which is partly why I'm thinking Danny Young might stay. But I don't know.
Maton, yeah, I agree. I think Maton has proven that he can get lefties out.
Yeah.
Reed Garrett can get lefties out. Those two guys with their stuff, they have great splits. But yeah, every bullpen needs at least one lefty. I think it should be written in law.
Yeah. It should be a rule, honestly, of the game.
Personally, I think it should be a rule that at least one lefty.
That's right.
Just for job security for
and they
my,
should be
my
allowed to
fellow
only
Southpaws.
they should be allowed to only get one out, and then they can leave. Let's
agree.
Let's
Get
bring
rid
back
of
the
that
loogie,
rule.
Okay? Come on, let's bring back the loogie.
I honestly, I'm biased, but I truly think that the 3-batter minimum rule should be relegated now.
It's killing careers. We're losing out on the Jerry Blevins of the 2020s.
I'm not even just that, but watching a manager make some moves, they're limited now.
Yeah.
And then watching, like, if a guy doesn't have it, and then watching him walk 2 more guys on 15 pitches, it's just brutal to watch. It's not a good product. It doesn't take that long with the way they're ready to go now. I think they should get rid of it again.
Jerry for commissioner.
I would not come out of retirement, I promise.
It sounds like you're trying to build your case. This is the way you would come back. And I mean, I've asked you this before, but you get about 10 requests a day of, suit up. You still got your glove, armor warm,
When that stops, when people stop asking me, I'll know that I'm old, man.
That's the day.
But
what do you think you could touch right now? 80?
Like today, or if I built up like an off season?
If I said, let's go to Central Park, let's have a catch, I'll bring my gear.
I could probably touch 83 right now.
That's still pretty
it
good,
would hurt.
Jerry. I mean, yeah.
I honestly feel like I could go right back to throwing. Like if I had an off season to build up, I could throw what I was back then. It would I wouldn't recover the same. And I would be in more pain on a regular basis.
Yeah, I bet. I think that would probably be a big part of it.
Yeah, I don't have that drive to be in the weight room, in the training room, to do what it takes.
And the
3
Mets have
hours a day.
options, so I'm not even sure you'd be guaranteed a spot at this point. In May, I think you would have a roster spot. That would be God.
That would be fun. Rich Hill's trying out, so maybe there's hope.
I know. He might get signed like this week, apparently. Which I can't. How old is he? He's 43, 44.
Yeah, he's my hero.
That's incredible. He's 44. Jerry,
Such
do you
a
have
good
anything
dude.
else on these guys?
No, man. They got to start. They got to start hitting.
Yeah.
This is you're at home. You're back into your friendly confines. Just play some ball. Take the pressure off. Play some baseball. Who are you? Who are you as a team? Let's prove it here. 44 games. 44
games. Win like 25 of them or something like that. I'm not sure what the math is there, but
I want an overarching question real quick that may or may not. If this team falls apart, are you super upset because they didn't trade at the deadline?
That is the risk you took, right? I mean, you chose to believe in this team specifically.
They had to.
Believe in this. Of course. Yeah, the Mets forced the front office hand. You cannot sell when you're 8 games over 500, whatever they were at the deadline.
You cannot sell the way they did.
Yeah.
I just hope that they finish strong enough to where you don't regret that they played so well.
Yeah, I mean, if the difference between if the Mets win 86 games and they fall 1 game out, or if they completely fall apart and they finish with a losing record, is substantial in my opinion. Because if you win to the end of the season You gave it an honest try. You added to a team. You tried to make them better, and you almost made the playoffs. Whereas if you completely fall apart, it will be talked about like the way we talk about 2021 sometimes, where the Mets traded a top prospect for Javi Baez. They went in and they could not win against the Dodgers and Giants, and that derailed the entire season. The Mets have a really bad recent legacy with trade deadlines. I mean, they've underperformed routinely at every trade deadline except for last year where they sold. This would have been a prime opportunity in a high seller's market to sell. But the fan in me obviously didn't want that. I'm sure you didn't want that either. You wanted to believe
they could not. They could not. It literally would have been horrible.
Yes.
They would have lost all the trust of all their players, the fans, because the team was hot and they still can show. I thought they did an excellent job at the deadline, but I was just curious, like thinking about how you felt if the team collapses. There's no way the front office could have traded away all their assets.
Yeah, I mean, David Stearns did that before in Milwaukee. He did that with Josh Hader. He lost the clubhouse. The team didn't perform in the second half, and they fell apart. You can't do that your first year on the job in a massive market where you've proclaimed that you're a lifelong fan. You know, you're a Mets fan first before a Mets GM. You couldn't do that, especially with a winning team that was, had the magic going. So I understand why they did what they did, and I do agree. I think they protected themselves, they protected their farm system, and they were still able to make the team better. But yeah, I mean, if the team loses out and they finish a 500 team, they don't make the playoffs, I'm obviously going to think about, well, damn, if we're going with this 2026 plan, we could have been so much better equipped had we deconstructed the team. But I think that went out the window in June and July when they won a bunch of games. So now you just have to you have to make it stand up, essentially, and the Mets have the power to do that with this 6 wildcard spot being available. Say what you will about the validity of it. Say what you will about how it affects the playoffs. I like it a lot more when my team's involved in it and has a chance to win it. But yeah, I mean, I think regardless of what happens, this will stand up as a much better trade deadline than what they did 2 years ago, where they brought in Ruff and Vogelback and Naquin, and the lineup didn't get any better. In fact, they got worse because of those guys. I think the way they went about this was much better. They trusted in their guys. They kept their guys together, but they have to make it stand up. They have to hit. That's their identity now. You have to live up to that.
Love it. I agree.
Yeah.
They could have done what the Rangers did. The Rangers had everything to sell.
Oh man.
The last thing I want to talk about, Jolly, is how great was it to see Jacob deGrom smiling and throwing pitches on the mound.
It warmed my heart. It really did.
It really did.
There's a nasty side of my brain that at the deadline was like, I wonder what it would take for the Rangers to be like, do the Rangers just want to get rid of that money off their payroll? They have a lot.
They would have, I think. I don't know.
On their payroll, and it would be so. I mean, I'm holding out hope for two things. One, that 2019 was not the last Cy Young of his career, and two, that he reappears in a Mets uniform at some point. I don't know if that'll happen. DeGrom is 36 years old. He's not getting any younger, but I'm praying to God that he can come back in September and ball out for the Rangers, even if they are out of it. It's just the game is better when Jacob deGrom is healthy and pitching. That's all.
I just want to see him out there, man. For him, for me as a fan of the game, and for just because the game is better when he's in it, and he deserves it, man. I'll say it again for the last time, though. The COVID season sucked for so many reasons. But it robbed us of what Jacob deGrom could have been. Had that been a normal season,
could have three-peated.
He would have three-peated. He probably would have been healthy going into the next season because of, the innings. Who knows what could have happened? But we were robbed of watching a three-peat because he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a Mets fan that's still holding on to a little bit of a jaded feeling for him leaving, let it go. I know it hurt in the moment. I was hurt in the moment. I was on that side for a little bit. I've let it go because he's the best pitcher of my lifetime. He probably will be for my entire life. I don't think we'll ever see a Mets pitcher as dominant as he was from 18 to 20 and 21.
We'll see.
21, I mean, he almost won MVP. But yeah, come home when you can. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be But we need a new DeGrom to develop.
Super reliever. Who knows? That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Comes the best closer in the game. We've gotten derailed, Jerry. We've gotten officially
That's my fault.
derailed. No, I liked it.
We got on a baseball discussion, which is fine for me.
Beat the A's, beat the Marlins, make it easy on yourself, hit the ball. Please.
When you go in to edit this a little bit, throw on this is where we go off the rails point. So if you're ready to tune out, go for it.
Just as a timestamp, Jack, just at this moment, this is where the podcast gets completely derailed. Well, when they lose a lot of games, we can't be that positive. That's just how it is, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, you can be positive because it's not as bad as it feels, and they have plenty of games to figure it out and push. Let's figure out, is this team who they showed that they were earlier in the season? Got to prove it again. This is what have you done for me lately business.
Yes, it is.
We'll go out, have some fun, and win some ball games.
We'll check in again next week where we'll either be a lot happier or a lot sadder. And there you go. Let's go Mets. We'll see you guys next time.
Let's go Mets.
Please beat the bad teams. I'm so scared of the Marlins.
Shade Station. Jerry and Charlie, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next time, where we'll be back.
Shade Station.